this is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and in this episode we're going to clear the air once and for all. What's better? Fast, high-speed juicing or blending, actually? And according to published scientific journal studies, in terms of antioxidant content, actually, blending is actually better than high-speed juicing. But that's not the end of the story, so I want you guys to watch till the end of this episode, because the answer is not always easily cut and dry, right? There may be things about your husband, your girlfriend, your wife, your significant other that you like and you don't like, right? And you think, oh, she's the best person for me, or he's the best person for me, or whatever, right? And, overall, yes, but, in some cases, maybe they do something like don't take out the trash, or don't do the dishes, or who knows what, that you don't like, right? And that's kind of like how the fight between blending and juicing is, right? It's not always clear-cut. Depending on how you look at it will depend on which one is better. And depending on your specific needs, your specific health goals, what you want to do when including more of these healthy foods, such as the fruits and vegetables that the blender and the juicer processes, should lead you to the one you want to do. I'm here just to share with you guys the best equipment to do that. I've been on a lifelong journey now for the last 24 odd years, basically increasing the nutrition in my diet, and the machinery that I use are a critical component of that. And I'm going to say this, that, in my opinion, I'm only around here today, not only because of the healthy foods I'm eating, which are fruits and vegetables, but because the appliances allow me to concentrate their nutrition and get more nutrients into me, as evidenced by 4 studies that I'll be going over today. So while the short of it is, in some ways, blending's better, right? Blending, it keeps all the fiber, John, because I know some of you guys want to believe in your head that blending is better, and yes, in some ways it is better, and definitely in terms of phytonutrients, as we will determine by the study here, actually better than a high-speed juicer. Fiber is definitely good. We need fiber in our diets. If you guys are eating animal products, highly processed junk foods, dairy, eggs, these foods have very little or no fiber. Junk foods might have very low amounts of fiber, but basically the fiber gets processed out. And fiber is an essential in our diet. I'm never going to say that we don't need fiber and we should only live on juices. But there are reasons to remove fiber. Some people are fiber intolerant, especially if you're not used to eating fiber. Your microbiome may not be used to getting fiber. Your intestines may not be used to digesting fiber. Fiber may bloat you. I mean, in the case of people with severe chronic health conditions such as Crohn's, colitis, inflammatory bowel disease, fiber really upsets them. And they, from a friend that I have that has healed himself from Crohn's, actually, he recommends juicing to basically give your bowels and your digestive system a break from the fiber, right? And in addition, blending, while it does keep the fiber, you also lose a lot of things, right? I have videos I'll post down below, some of the other ones you might be interested in learning about what you lose when you're blending, which is more than just the fiber, as you guys will learn also in this episode. And also be sure to check the links down below for some other videos that I've made in the past going over some scientific journal published studies now. In my olden days I made juicing versus blending videos based on my opinions and what I thought, which for the most part were accurate. But now, as I'm learning new data from published scientific journal studies where they actually test different nutrients, changing a little bit, but not so much, all right? So anyways, let's get into the heart of this episode, which is actually going over the study, and all these studies are linked down below in the description. Be sure to check them out. So this is a study that was published in November 2016 on the Food Science Biotechnical journal, and it's entitled Antioxidant Activity of Fresh Grape Juices Prepared Using Various Household Processing Methods. So they basically took grapes and they basically used a low-speed masticating juicer. That's the low-speed machines that I recommend. They also used a high-speed centrifugal ejection juicer that would be similar to the Breville high-speed machine, which many of you guys may own, or if you guys bought an inexpensive juicer at a department store, that's the kind of juicer you got. I used this machine when I first got into juicing 20 years ago, but if I knew now what I should have known then, I would have totally never even got that machine. And then they also used a blender, which would be similar to like a Vitamix. A lot of you guys own the Vitamix. Maybe you have a Blendtec. Maybe you have another, blender that's a non-vacuum blender. That's the kind of blender they used. So anyways, you could read this. It's like 10 pages. We're just going to jump to the meat, which is this page right here. And that has a few graphs there. And, I encourage you to look up the study down below. I'm not making up stuff. I'm just sharing it with you guys. But basically, on this graph, they show total polyphenol content. And, of course, on the high-speed centrifugal juicer, that's this bar right here. It's actually quite low. It's lower than even a blender when they're trying to get the polyphenols out of grapes, right? So that means a blender had at least twice as much of these polyphenols than the high-speed juicer, right? And then the total flavonoids, on the blender were also better than the high-speed juicer. You're like, John, man, how can you say blending's better than juicing? I thought you're a juicer guy. Well, I like juices for many reasons. Sometimes I like blending too. But then even more, we can talk about anthocyanins, and these components in produce, in my opinion, are super critical for our health. And you can see that the high-speed juicer really didn't give you guys a lot of those guys compared to a blender. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but basically it's like super low and a little bit higher. And then the vitamin C content, once again, the blender produced, at least maybe twice as much as a high-speed juicer did, right? Then if we go on to like different, free radicals, the blender on the DPPH radical scavenging activity, the blender had a little bit more than the high-speed juicer. And then if we look at the SOD-like activity, the blender, actually had less than the high-speed juicer there. So, here's the thing. You'll see patterns, but things are not always cut and dry when they're doing, these studies. So you can't say blending's always better than high-speed juicing. In some instances, depending on the nutrient you're looking at, one may be better than the other, but in general, you'll see trends. So on this trend, comparing only these two machines in general, but not always, the blender will produce higher levels of the antioxidant, nutrients, because a high-speed blender, it's not because of the heat that damages them, in my opinion. It's because of the high speed, and in addition, when you're doing a blended mixture, you're basically keeping 100% of what you put in. When you're doing a high-speed juicer, there's air, you're kicking out pulp. There are some nutrients that are coming out in the pulp if the juicer's not efficient at basically breaking open the cell walls and actually getting them into the juice. So, that's where, most people might stop. Yeah, blending's better than juicing, but, I'm not like that. And, I really do not recommend the high-speed centrifugal ejection machines. I'll post a link down below to a video where I talk more about that. So now we're going to go ahead and move this guy off the table because, I really don't even like to use those. But now we're going to bring in this guy. And this is called a low-speed juicer. Low speed, I call it a cold press juicer. Some people might refer to it as a low speed masticating juicer. So now let's compare the high speed blender to the low speed juicer. And once again, that is also done in this same very study. So once again, now we go to this page here with all the graphs, and if you look up right here, total polyphenol content, low speed juicer, it's even higher than the blender. So the blender got like second best. The high speed juicer was out of there, but the low speed juicer got even more nutrition out in the terms of polyphenols than the blender here. Next, let's look at the total flavonoids. So once again, the low speed juicer, and this is with processing grapes. Every produce item you're processing may be different depending on the produce item and the extraction method, right? And so once again, the low speed juicer put out more flavonoids than the blender. And then look at this, anthocyanins. This is what I'm really interested in. Anthocyanins, that's this one right here. Look at this. This big bar right there, that's the low speed juicer. And the blender put out like a quarter, a fraction of that. Maybe like only got 25% of the anthocyanins that the low speed juicer did. And then if we go over to the vitamin C content, the vitamin C content in the low speed juicer right here, or a blender juicer like this, got about twice as much vitamin C content out as the high-speed blender. So here's what's happening in my opinion. Because the blender runs at very high speed and the juicer runs at low speed, if you ever look down in the middle of a blender as it's running, you basically see a tornado, kind of like that hit Alabama recently and tore up houses and destroyed people's lives. But that's basically breaking open the cell walls, which is good because it allows nutrients to basically be available for you guys to eat. But then the problem is, at the same time, it's oxidizing them. So also in this study that's actually quite interesting, if I could point this out because I didn't point it out before, is that actually they also tested just the grapes alone, I think maybe like unprocessed, as for their polyphenol content, and it was actually quite low, just raw grapes, probably not blended or chewed. And that's because all the nutrients are still stuck in the cell wall. So we need some kind of action, such as our teeth, which in my opinion are probably the best ways to process our produce, especially grapes. We can just chew them up into a mush and swallow them. You don't need any fancy equipment, but the problem is people don't want to use their teeth to chew properly. Grapes are pretty easy to digest and chew up, but carrots could take a lot longer because they're all nice and hard, and that's why I like to personally juice my carrots. But yeah, you can see the vitamin C content of just the whole grapes were just significantly less than once you process them with a juicer that breaks open the cell walls and makes the nutrients more available for you guys to eat. And that's frankly why I like the juicers and the blenders, because they allow you to basically get access some of the nutrition that you might not otherwise. And in my opinion, this is very important if you have a compromised digestive system, if you haven't been eating the healthiest foods for the most of your life. Juicing makes it the easiest way for your body to absorb the nutrients. Another thing that I've seen, data I've seen suggests that once you make a juice and you remove the fiber, it has an easier time being digested, goes in a little bit quicker, and is absorbed into your body faster than a smoothie where your body has to deal with all the fibers. Now this could be a pro or a con in the terms of green juice. I think that's probably generally good, but I do not recommend generally juicing straight fruits or juicing mostly fruits in a juicer. Fruit should be definitely eaten whole or blended up, but I do encourage you guys to juice as many leafy green vegetables as well as other vegetables as you can, especially if it will allow you to eat more of these vegetables that you might not otherwise do in your daily life, all right? So now I want to show you guys the next study, and the next study here is actually called the enzymatic browning reaction of apple juices prepared using a blender and a low-speed masticating household juicer such as the one right here. And once again, a link is down below to this. It says abstract. The aim of this study was to investigate the effect of juicer type, blender or low-speed household juicer on the browning reaction of apple juice and evaluate the remaining antioxidant activity in the juice. The blender apple juice showed a darker brown color and 4.5 times higher PPO activity than the low-speed apple juice. This result suggested that the blender caused severe damage to plastids in cells, leading to leakage of PPO into the juice than the low-speed juicer. Total polyphenol and flavonoid content of the low-speed apple juice was approximately 2 times higher than that of the blender apple juice because of polyphenols and flavonoids can be used as substrates by PPO. Basically, that's the oxidation reaction. You're losing some of these nutrients. The antioxidant activity of the low-speed juice was higher than that of blender juice. Together, these results suggested that low-speed juicer is superior to blending for preparation of fresh apple juices due to the minimization of enzymatic oxidation reactions. So they basically have a little chart here with pictures and whatnot. And basically on the chart it says, you had basically about half as much of the polyphenols, when you blended it than if you slow juiced it. So once again, a slow juicer wins over the high-speed blender, even though you're keeping all the fiber. Yes, you're keeping the fiber, and if you compare this same study, if they did, study study of fiber in apple juice in a blender versus a low-speed juicer, of course, the blender is going to show more fiber. But that being said, there's different kinds of fiber, and just because you're juicing doesn't mean you're losing all the fiber, right? The two main types of fiber that's usually identified, although there are many more, are soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. When you juice, you remove the insoluble fiber that comes out, where the pulp comes out, but you are keeping the soluble fiber that's literally soluble in water or dissolves in water, all right? All right, next study. This is a very interesting study because this might shoot some holes in what I'm trying to share with you guys today, but I tell it like it is, and I want you guys to know the truth about these things and make up your own decision based on the studies that you may not be researching, like on a regular basis like I do, all right? And this study, once again, links down below, is called a comparison of the effect of blending and juicing on the phytochemical contents and antioxidant capacity of typical Korean kernel fruit juices. So basically, to make a long story short, they used a couple different style juicers. I think they used a low-speed juicer, and then they used a high-speed blender there. So I think that's what they used basically. And they used basically a couple different fruits like apples. They used pears, persimmons, and oranges, right? And here's the study of some of the different polyphenols in the charts there. Once again, you can follow along. The links are down below. But basically what I'll tell you guys is this. So for the apples, the juiced had more of the polyphenols than the blended, right? On the pears, the juice had a little bit more polyphenols than the blended. On the persimmons, actually, the blended beat out the juicer, right? And then on the mandarin orange, right? The mandarin orange on, maybe had about at least 40% more and 30% more of certain polyphenols than the juicer, right? So why are some of these like inconsistent? Why are sometimes it's better to blend and sometimes it's better to juice? Because in my opinion, it's the consistency of the fruit and how the nutrients come out and how they are oxidized or not, and how efficient the extraction technique is to make those nutrients available, right? And so with an apple, it was clear that the juice was definitely better in terms of polyphenols than the blender, but in terms of mandarin oranges, the blender was a lot better. Now, why is this, right? Because the blender, in my opinion, will basically cut open and make some of those nutrients available that are in the pith. Many juices, especially slow juices that are not really grinding too well, they're just kind of wringing it out, don't really get some of those nutrients out of the pith. You might have to use a different kind of juicer to do that, or a different method. And so that's why I believe, something like a mandarin orange would be better blended, but even better than blending is just eating it. I love to eat the oranges straight up. And persimmons, I was surprised. I will rarely ever juice persimmons because in my opinion, it's a waste to juice persimmons. In my opinion, it's also a waste to blend persimmons. It's the best to just eat your persimmons. So once again, I would encourage you guys always to eat your fresh fruits and chew them properly. You're probably going to get higher levels of, polyphenols and antioxidants in many, but not all cases, than using a blender or a juicer that can damage them or maybe not even extract them in the first place, all right? So let's see here. This is different kinds of antioxidant potential in apples, pears, persimmons, and oranges. And once again, it pretty much shows that, it depends on the situation, right? In terms of the antioxidant capacities, the apples were actually better juiced. The pears were a little bit better juiced. The persimmons were actually better blended. But in this case, the oranges were actually better juiced in terms of antioxidants. Whereas previously, what were we looking at? We were looking at actually the polyphenols. So yeah, polyphenols, antioxidants, two different things. So once again, it depends on the exact measure. I have seen data in the past suggesting if you just look at minerals, a certain juicer, whether that's a high speed versus a low speed versus a blender, may extract more certain minerals than other things. But I'll tell you what I've seen over the years is I'm seeing trends, and the trends for me and what I believe to be true is that the low speed juicers are definitely the best overall to get the most important nutrients out of the produce, in my opinion, which are the polyphenol, antioxidants, and these are the things that help keep us young and help keep disease at bay, according to my research, all right? So that's this study. Now we're down to the last one here, and this is basically just another study. It says a quality evaluation of fresh tomato juices prepared using a high-speed centrifugal and a low-speed masticating juicer. That'd be like this machine here. This is the Omega VSJ843 slow juicer versus a high-speed juicer like the Breville that I had earlier. And so basically we'll read the abstract because the full document was not online. It says the aim of this study was to evaluate and compare the physiochemical, nutritional, and sensory properties of homemade fresh tomato juice prepared using two types of household juicers, a high-speed centrifugal juicer and a low-speed masticating juicer. Juice yields soluble solids and the contents of total polyphenol, vitamin C, and lycopene in LSM, that's a low-speed juice, were significantly higher than the high-speed tomato juice. The free radical scavenging ability of the low-speed tomato juice was also higher than the high-speed juice. High-speed tomato juice easily separated into two layers with many fine bubbles, while low-speed tomato juice was homogeneous. Sensory evaluation, that means like how good it tastes and how it feels, revealed that panels significantly preferred low-speed tomato juice to high-speed tomato juice. In conclusion, low-speed juice showed several advantages over high-speed juice for preparation tomato juice of superior quality, taste, that is rich in antioxidant phytochemicals as a high yield. All right. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. You know, I tell it to you guys like it is. I've encouraged you guys for years to get a slow juicer over a high-speed juicer. You know, the scientific studies now just support that more than ever. Each of these studies came out in different times, like 2015. This one came out in 2014. This one came out in 2018 actually, and then there's the other one from 2017. So these are all fairly recent studies, you know, and as new studies come out, I keep abreast of what's going on, and so I can share those with you and also use them for my benefit, because I want to know the best machine to use in my kitchen to get the most of these health beneficial properties out of the fruits and vegetables, and get them into me. Now today, you know, I've talked about the high-speed juicer, the low-speed juicer, and the blender, of course. Overall, in my opinion, the low-speed juicer wins out, but it doesn't stop there, because in some cases the blender is actually more efficient, and this episode did not even cover vacuum blending. I hope to have a new episode covering the scientific studies on the vacuum blending versus the standard blending. But basically, based on scientific studies, if you are going to blend, I would encourage you guys to do it under vacuum. There are now special vacuum blenders. If you have a Vitamix, you can put a special carafe on top of your Vitamix to do vacuum blending. I'll put a link down below to a video I made on that. But basically on vacuum blending, you basically suck out the excess oxygen out of the carafe before you blend. So now you're blending in an oxygen deprived environment, which means, according to testing, you'll see, you know, maybe 2 times higher of certain polyphenols and antioxidant vitamins such as vitamin C and vitamin A. Of course, this also depends on the specific produce you're blending. And the other thing you're going to notice is that it stores longer, the mixture tastes better, doesn't tend to separate as much either. So, you know, overall, I want to recommend the 2 best methods for preparing fruits and vegetables, aside from chewing them up into a mush ourselves in our mouth, which is probably the number 1 best method. But after that, then I would recommend slow juicing, which I prefer more than the vacuum blending, which I prefer second. You know, I still like the juicing because it allows you to concentrate the nutrients that you would not otherwise normally be able to eat. For example, I could take 5 pounds of carrots and I could juice it into 5 cups of carrot juice, and I could literally get the majority of the nutrition out of the carrots by using my low-speed juicer. Whereas if I used a blender with 5 pounds of carrot, it's going to make 5 pounds of carrot mush that I'm sorry, I could not eat that much. I could maybe eat like 1 pound of carrot mush, but then I'm full. You know, and in this day and age when we have insults to ourselves each and every day from different stressors, whether that's environmental stressors, you know, things in your environment, things in your mind, whatever, we need to get some of these different phytonutrients that, in my opinion, help our body deal with and even heal from, you know, stress in our life. So that's pretty much it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode, I want to encourage you guys to support me and my work by making your purchase at discountjuicers.com. This allows me to continue to put food on my table, pay my light bill, so I can continue to educate you guys about the power of the fruits and vegetables, as well as the helping you select the right equipment to get the exact, you know, results you desire in your home so that you and your family could get healthier. You know, other retailers don't go to the extent I do to basically show the guys the power of the juicing and the blending and the fruits and vegetables. So I really thank you guys in advance for those of you guys who will support me so I continue my work, my mission to help educate the world about the power of the fruits and vegetables. And I want to thank you guys for those of you guys that have supported me in the past. It's much appreciated as well. Once again, links are down below to the juicer that I showed. This is my favorite juicer that I use in my home. Just because it's my favorite juicer and it's the one I use of all the juicers I've ever tested doesn't mean it's going to be the right one for you. And at present time, when this is being filmed in 2019, this is what I'm using on almost everyday basis in my home, although that may change as new juicers comes out. But just because I like it doesn't mean it's going to be the best one for you. So I encourage you to watch my other videos on this channel. I have over 500 episodes on this channel dedicated to comparing and contrasting all the different juicers so that you guys can get the right one for you. I test a variety of different slow juicers, and one of them may be better for you than another depending on your specific needs, wants, desires, and of course what you are specifically juicing. And of course, if you guys want to get a blender, I do not recommend standard blenders such as a Vitamix anymore. I only recommend actually vacuum blenders that will keep higher levels of some of these phytonutrients, antioxidants, as well as just make your blended mixtures taste way better. If you ever tasted a high-speed juice compared to low-speed juice, you know how much better the low-speed juice tastes. If you tasted a standard blended smoothie versus a a vacuum blended smoothie, significantly different. Once you jump over the edge, it's like you can't go back. I could barely drink regular smoothies now, and I really don't like to drink high-speed juices now. And, I'll post a link down below to a video I made talking about, what's better, low-speed juicing or vacuum blending, right? Each of them have their own pros and cons. I would encourage you guys to get both, but if you got to get one first, well, check the link down below to find out which one you guys should get. If you like this format, hey, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I'll review more literature studies in the future for you guys to share with you guys what's going on in the juicing and blending world, so you guys get to stay abreast, because literally this is the life that I'm involved with, and I love getting into the nitty-gritty and learning about how just changing your appliance out in your kitchen could increase your health, your well-being, and of course, because your health is your wealth, it's also going to increase your wealth. Be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I'm coming out about every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll share what we'll be learning or what new appliance I'll be testing on this YouTube channel. And make sure you click the little bell so you get the notifications. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 500 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to sharing with you guys all the different appliances that will allow you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.